So today we're going to talk about survivor bias during intelligence gathering, planning, forecasting, and when we're doing after action reports. Now, what survivor bias is looking at the result that you receive back from an encounter, a armed conflict, a survival situation. So, for instance, one channel I like to watch is about American bombers during World War II. And they did a recent video where they were talking about 30 millimeter automatic cannon and its effect on B-17 and B-24s. And when you look at that, when you look at it from the American point of view, they're gathering data from bombers that made it back to base that they can evaluate versus the unknown of what didn't come home. So when you're looking at a situation where you're looking at survivors of a survival situation, a combat encounter, a attrition situation, survival scenario, you are going to be analyzing it from the point of view of the intelligence, the bodies, the equipment, the weapons that come back to you. Not the ones that are lost, the ones that disappear, the ones you don't know what happened to. So what happens is you have a tendency to analyze things and get a result based on the information you receive back versus what really actually happened. So when we look at the 30 millimeter automatic cannon on the B-17 and B-24, they only had about 5% of aircraft that they got damage data from. So from that standpoint, they viewed the 30 millimeter cannon as not very effective. But in reality, the 30 millimeter automatic cannon was very effective because most of the aircraft hit never made it home. And they didn't know what happened to those aircraft. Now, in a survival situation, you're going to have survivor bias based upon the equipment you recover, the vehicles you recover, the homesteads that you recover, materials you recover, and the amount of personnel that actually make it back to your compound. So for instance, if over a year you send 20 people on patrols and they never return, you don't know what happened to them. Versus, let's say 50 return, 10% of them are wounded. They're wounded by certain things. Some of them are damaged physically through environmental conditions, maybe toxins, weather conditions, non-combat encounters with other people. And what happens is you get a biased view from that of your tactics, your strategies, the effectiveness of your equipment, so on and so forth. So what you need to keep in mind is this is kind of like the fog of war. You're making decisions based on the data you collect and what comes back to you versus what doesn't come back to you. And it gives you a very distorted view of the effectiveness of the enemy. Another example of survivor bias is tactics used by the Vietcong in the North Vietnamese Army, otherwise known as the NVA. What they would do is recover the bodies of their combatants and all enemy combatants they could from the battlefield. That way, there was no way to ascertain how many casualties there were on either side, how the casualties were inflicted, what happened to the people, and it actually functioned as a great way to bias intelligence gathering against the enemy. So the way they did this is they had a body hook that they made out of the crotch of a tree and a piece of rope. And they would insert this under the sternum of the dead body, and one man could easily drag the enemy away. You could also use a rescue sling loop like I showed you in another video to do the same thing. So this is a tactic you can use during a survival situation or a combat situation. You can recover the dead of both sides and dispose of them so the enemy can't use that as an intelligence gathering tool. So what this does is prevents an enemy force from ascertaining What percentage of casualties are from artillery, booby traps, landmines, small arms fire, hand-to-hand combat, etc.? This can be extremely useful in a survival situation. Now in print, I've only seen one photograph of a Vietcong body hook and how it was made. I don't know if any of them actually exist in the United States as war souvenirs, or people looked at things they didn't know what they were. But if you want me to do a video on it, I can show you how to make one. So just let me know in the comments. So please comment, share your thoughts. We'll see you on the next video.